Hello, fam. This is Zazu from Entertainment, reminding you that enthusiasm implies excellence. Our lesson for today is based on number pairing, and we'll be doing arithmetic sequences. Let us look at the definition for arithmetic sequence. An arithmetic sequence is a sequence of numbers such that difference between the consecutive terms is constant. Okay. Let me help you visualize how an arithmetic sequence looks like. Let us assume that you have classes. So let me separate my classes. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This one, let me say my first class is at 2. This is my first class. And my classes are equally separated in distance. Meaning from this is my class A, this is my class B, this is my class C, this is my class D. So from class A to class B, I walk 4 meters. From class B to class C, it is 4 meters. From class B to class C, it is 4 meters. And from class C to class D, I walk 4 meters. So from class A, of which is my first class, I can call it term number 1. And see here, these classes are equally separated from one another, of which is a difference between the consecutive term is constant. So this one is term number 1, this one is my term number 2, this one is my term number 3, this one is my term number 4. So judging from this sequence of mine, or this story of mine, so moving from my class A to my class B, I add 4 meters. And moving from my class B to my class C, I add 4 meters. Moving from my class C to my class D, I also add 4 meters. So here I have my A. Okay, my A is my first term, in fact, of which is 2. And pay attention here. My 2, of which is my T2 is A, my A is 2, plus 4 meters from class A to class B. And this one is my T2. My T3 is equal to 2 plus how many classes am I going to pass from class A to class C? Because my T3 is class number C. And every time I count my classes, I always refer them to my first class. So here, on my third class, in fact, starting from first class, I walk from my first class of 2, passing from class A to class B, I add 4 meters. From class B to class C, I also add my 4 meters. Moving to class number 4, of which it's also, I have to relate my classroom D with my classroom A. So from classroom A, that's where I have T1 which is 2. 2. From classroom A to classroom B, I add 4. From classroom B to classroom C, I add 4. From classroom C to classroom D, I add 4. So if you can check here, moving from point A to point B, there is this constant difference between my classroom. The common difference is 4. So now we can denote our common. I can call it common distance or common difference between my classes, in fact. As D. So if I denote my common difference as D and my first term to be A, this thing is same as from my term number 1, I'll be having A. From my term number 2, I'll be having A. I said everything should be related to your first term, of which is A. A plus, I said my 4 is the constant difference between my consecutive terms. That is denoted by D. So here it's A plus D. My T3 is equal to A plus D, of which is 4, plus another D, of which is also 4. This means my term number 3 is A plus 2D. Moving to term number 4. My term number 4 is my first term because I keep on saying that every following term you have to relate them to your first term. You have to know where you come from for you to know where you are going. Whenever you want to check a direction, you make sure that you have to indicate where are you from and where is your destination. So I come from A, my destination, I've passed this, how many 4? It's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3, of which is A plus 3D. Okay. Let us assume that I'm no longer given any sequence. In fact, I just want to find the general term of any sequence. In every sequence that I might come across, which term can I use to find any value that is within that sequence? So if you can see here, I'm having 4. Here I'm having 3. I'm having 3 here. Here I'm having 2. I'm having 2 here. I'm having 1. I'm having 1 here. Here I'm having 0. That's why I'm remaining with D, because any number multiplied by 0, that number vanishes. That means if I'm having nth term relating it to my first term, it will be nth term plus, it will be nth term that is equal to your first term plus your n and minus 1, then multiply by D. This is what is regarded as your general term. So this general term can be used to calculate any number that is within your sequence. One more thing that I want you to know is how to find your D. your D, of which is your common difference. So to find a common difference, we have to say your term number 3, it depends on the number of terms that is given to you. But this is the reasonable one to say your term number 3 minus your term number 2 should be equal to your term number 2, in fact, minus your term number 1. And that one should be equal to your D, of which is your common difference. So if these two terms are equal, that indicate that the sequence that you are working with is an arithmetic sequence, and it has a common difference. But if these two differences are not the same, that means you are no longer working with arithmetic sequence, you are working with another sequence. Okay. Let us have our example. Here you are given the sequence. Your sequence is 2, 5, 8, 11. Okay, let me say we have 4 terms. So term number 1, your term number 2, your term number 3, and your term number 4. Okay. 1. You are required to determine general term of the sequence. For you to determine the general term of the sequence, you have to know your value of A, you have to know your common difference before you get your Tn. Because you know that your Tn is equal to A plus n minus 1 multiplied by D. Luckily enough, because you are given a sequence, it is easy for you to find your first term because your A is your first term and your first term is equal to 2, of which is equal to A. And then we said for you to find your difference, it should be your term number 3 minus your term number 2 should be equal to term number 2 minus your term number 1. So here, your term number 3 is 8. 8 minus 5, and your term number 2 is 5, and your term number 1 is 2. You can see here that your 8 minus 5, you get 3, and 5 minus 2, you also get 3. This indicates that 3 is your common difference. So now you have your A equal to 2, you have your D equal to 3. That makes things easier for you to write your general term. Your general term will be your Tn is equal to A plus into n minus 1 you multiply by your D. Your A is 2 plus n minus 1 you multiply by your D, of which is A. Sorry, cannot write A now because I know that my A is 2. It is 2 plus n times 3, that one will be 3n, minus 1 times 3, it will be minus 3, of which is equal to 3n minus 1. This is your Tn. This is what we refer to as your general term. So you can use this expression to calculate any term or to find any term that is within the sequence. within this sequencing. Okay. And you can also get the question that say, determine the value. Okay, no, let me not say the value. Let's just say which term in the sequence is which term in the sequence is equal to 17. Okay, since you now have your general term, the fact that they want which term that means you need your n. So your Tn is, you have your Tn, you use a general term equal to 3n minus 1. And then your Tn is 13 is equal to 3n minus 1. Okay? 13 plus 1 is equal to 3n. So here you get your 14, and here you get your 3n. You divide both sides by 3, and then your n is equal to 14 over 3. Therefore, you conclude, because your n is always a whole number. In fact, not always a whole number. It's always a whole number, yes, and cannot be positive. So by saying it's a whole number, I think I'm done. Yeah, it should be a whole number, or not a whole number, but it should be a natural number. It's always a natural number. It cannot be a fraction. Therefore, 17 is not in the sequence. It might happen for them to ask you the number that is not existing on the sequence. If the number gives you a fraction or a negative number, that means that number does not exist on your sequence. A number should be a natural number, meaning a positive number starting from 1 to infinity. And you cannot have a fraction, you cannot also have a negative number. Judging from what I've just said, I have decided to leave you with your exercise to do. Here you are given a sequence from 3, 3, 6, 9, that is up to 30. 30 is your last term. And you are required to write the value of A and D and to determine the general term of the above sequence. And then they asked which term of the above sequence has the value of 21. No, let me not tell you. Let me assume that you will figure out what is required of you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to see you on my next session.